Video 1. So this is our introduction. Now everywhere you look today there's information, there's data, it's being collected, it's being given out, it's being analysed. And all of this information is particular to each individual, is particular to each aspect of society. And all that we can really say about this information is that there's a massive variation there. And statistics allows us to have a look at that variation and predict trends according to what's going to happen. So if I was to sum up, statistics is about variation, and it's about using that variation to predict what's going to happen, and maybe use it then to sell a particular object or decide what direction you're going to go in a company or something like that. So we start with a few unusual statistics. So these are lockdown statistics. And the first one involves the baking of bread, specifically sourdough and banana bread. And over lockdown, the first lockdown that is, the home cooking of those types of bread multiplied by a factor of 12. And basically all that happened was the internet analysed how much of flour and yeast was bought by homes, and then using that it predicted that there would be roughly 12 times more loaves baked in the home. Second example. Now on the left of that new image there, we have a graph, and you can see there we have March 9th, April 13th. Now the April 13th is lockdown this year, and then there's a yellowy graph below it that represents last year. So in April 13th of last year, there was a massive increase in some sort of search or product or something like that. And what this relates to is there was a 150% increase in male grooming products this year or actually 2020 compared with 2019. So basically men had discovered that, okay, we're staying at home, I can't get my hair cut, I'm going to have to do something about it. So then there was 1.5 times more men searching online for grooming products because they needed to look after their own hair. All right, and the third one, this also compares 2020 lockdown with what happened the previous year. There was a 450% increase in searches for bird feeders, tents, and barbecues. And the prediction then was that people were spending more time outdoors. So more time outdoors in their own home. That's why they were buying more bird feeders and barbecues. And also more time outdoors camping because they couldn't go anywhere else. They couldn't go to a different county. So they'd buy a tent and then I suppose they'd go camping in the woods. The barbecue would come in handy there as well, I suppose. Now, before I show you some more unusual statistics, I just want you to take a look at the numbers that are there. We have 12 by 150% and 450%. And the data there is a little bit misleading. Really, that data should be in the same form. So 150% is just a 1.5 times multiple compared to the previous year. And 450% is 4.5 times larger as well. So the biggest increase actually is with the sourdough and the sourdough and the yeast for the bread. So just when you're displaying statistics, make sure you use the same unit to display the statistics so they can be compared easily. Right, some random statistics. First of all, did you know that if you lost your remote control, you're 50% likely to find it between the cushions on the sofa? You're 4% likely to find it in the fridge, and you're 2% likely to find it outside or in the car. Obviously, someone has done an analysis of this, taken the data and interpreted it. Second one is with fishing. So fishing is supposed to be a kind of relaxing outdoor activity. But actually more people are killed fishing than miners working in dangerous mines, truck drivers, or power line installers. So these are the guys who work on top of the big power lines. So more people are killed fishing than in those three industries. Actually, 4 times more people are killed fishing per year than in those industries. Okay, somebody did a statistical analysis of how long people spend eating per day. They found that the US were the 3rd fastest eaters. They spent about 1.25 hours eating per day. And then on the other side of the spectrum, the slowest eaters were actually the Turkish, followed by the French. And the Turkish spent about 2.5 hours eating per day, the French about 2.25. And the last one is in Britain, they did a statistical analysis on the accidents that happened on Friday the 13th. And they found that if you had a traffic accident, you are 52% more likely to have a hospital-worthy traffic accident on Friday the 13th than if it was Friday the 16th. So you are more likely to have an accident on Friday the 13th, and it would make you go to hospital as a result than on Friday the 16th, different Friday. So what can we take from it? Well, first off, statistics is used in all fields of life. It's about variation, and it's about assessing that variation. So here are a few examples of where it would be used. So in ecological surveys in biology, sales analysis in a business, so what products are selling and what aren't, and if a product isn't selling, then you discontinue that product and you'd have more of the types of products that sell. Time spent online and what apps are being used. So your internet usage is being monitored all the time, and then you're being sold more ads in the apps that you use more frequently. Those are the free apps, obviously. Okay, so for example, an ecological survey there, that would be an example. You might go out to the garden and you might see an image a bit more realistic than that. And then you'd have to go out and you'd count how many butterflies there are, how many caterpillars, how many bees, how many ladybugs. And then you can make an assessment on the types of bugs or insects in that area. And then you might say, okay, if I put these two plants down here, then I'll have more butterflies and more bees, and I might have fewer ladybugs or something like that. So you can use the information that you've collected to make a decision based on it, which is what statistics is for. Second set. So the types of consumers in a country together with their average personal wealth. So for example, if you went to Dubai, most of the people there earn a lot more money than they would in Ireland or in a nearby country like, let's say, Thailand or something like that. So if they have more money, they're likely to buy higher end products. So as a result, companies like Ferrari and Lamborghini would be more likely to set up a dealership in Dubai than they would in a place like Thailand or even in Ireland, because there are fewer people in Ireland that would buy a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or something like that. The weather would also come into play there. Also stuff like age profiles in a country. So at the moment, Japan has a very old age profile. There's a lot of people close to or have retired, and the youth aren't having as many children. Now, if you do the statistics on that, what it will mean is the people who are working usually support the people who are retired. And if there are fewer people working and more people retired, that means the government will have to take more money from the taxes provided by the younger people to support the older people. So what the government have done then is they've made a decision, and that is to promote more baby making, essentially, in Japan, so that if there's a younger population there, those younger population can support the higher percentage of older people. Okay. Also, if you were a consumer, you might see, okay, I went home, I counted the number of fruit on the table, and I've got number of these fruits left on the table. And then you might make a conclusion, okay, I bought more strawberries because strawberries are in season. Or you might make a conclusion that, okay, there's loads of apples left, but there's very few mangoes left. So maybe people in the house prefer apples to mangoes. Sorry, prefer mangoes to apples, actually. So maybe the next time I go shopping, I'll buy more mangoes than apples. So what we're doing there is we're looking at the variation of what's happening, we're analysing it, and then we're making decisions based on it. And the last couple I'll give you are interesting ideas that I've come across before. So Facebook have done statistical analysis, and they're able to pick out with greater accuracy than doctors people who are more prone to heart problems and also people who are likely to commit suicide. So the heart problem ones, one of the biggest factors describing whether people will have heart problems or not is anger. So Facebook are able to analyse the posts that you put up on Facebook, and if a lot of them are aggressive sounding words and swear words, they've identified that these people are more likely to suffer from heart problems going forward. With the depression thing and the suicide, Facebook is able to analyse if you use words like I'm alone, I'm lonely, and there's nobody around on Facebook, and then these people are more likely to be depressed and consequently and unfortunately commit suicide. Also, the final example is the effectiveness of a new medical drug. So my sister works for Eli Lilly and she works in a data analysis department, and this is basically her job. So she looks at the trials of drugs, how effective they are on remedying symptoms, and what side effects there are as well. So this is a big area for Eli Lilly. Okay. Final example there, look, is if you were a small-time entrepreneur and you were selling things in your fast food joint, you then look at that and see how many are sold per evening. And you can see that there's more pizzas sold in comparison to hot dogs. So what you would then do the next day is you'd cook more pizzas, fewer hot dogs, or you might discontinue the hot dogs altogether because you're not making enough money off them. Okay, so that's the introduction to statistics.